Give me a ping, Vasily. One ping only. You might find yourself saying that this October, when World of Warships introduces submarines in its annual Halloween mode. You might be saying it even more in 2019 if player feedback proves positive. World of Warships have sent shockwaves throughout the land, with its video showing submarine gameplay that is special this year to the annual Halloween event. So yes, here is that submarine video. You've probably seen the gameplay already, and this is probably the 50,000th submarine video on that gameplay. But you know how we do it in YouTube land. It's the hot topic, the soup du jour, so I'm going to get my thoughts in regardless. I'm going to do this a little different though. I'm going to delve into speculation land. And we all know speculation land is ruled by the good idea fairy, where things might sound like a good idea, but don't always turn out that way. So while this submarine gameplay looks all fine and dandy in the context of Halloween, will it make it into the game for good? Let's talk about how we might see it and why we might not. It's obvious that this is a testbed for submarine gameplay to see if it is indeed feasible. Alexander Nikolaev, who you might better know as Sasha, and which is much easier for me to pronounce, the North America publishing director, was interviewed by GamesBeat and cited the reasons for submarine possibly making their way into the game. It's all about providing more content. Well, that's kind of paraphrasing everything, but it's the crux of it. There are only so many ships and so many ship classes that you can include in a World War II combat arcade/simulator. Apparently, Wargaming's been thinking about submarines since the very beginning, but at the time they didn't fit into the meta, according to the article. Sasha also said that submarines restore counters to battleships, but they are super vulnerable. One other big nugget from the article is that it makes mention of submarines coming in 2019, but Sasha also stated this is player feedback driven as well, and I'll touch on that here in a bit. So, let's talk about submarines in general. In World War II they were slow, vulnerable, they attacked mainly at night, could only fire forward, move faster on the surface than when submerged, fire mostly on the surface, were lightly armored, easy to sink by 5mm shells, and even aircraft guns. They were not fun to serve on and had low survivability, despite being responsible for the majority of tonnage being sunk in World War II. They were valuable though, they played their part, but in a completely different form of warfare, one not necessarily seen or advertised in World of Warships. There's no denying that there are legions of players that are chomping at the bit to see submarines, so right off the bat, the desire for them to be in the game is there, and they would in fact add a new dimension of gameplay. Sasha even alluded to that. If feedback from the Halloween event is in fact favorable, it might indeed provide the green light to start development of these silent hunters. So, would we see them in 2019? Do I think we'll see them in 2019? I say not yet, Kameraden. Not yet. There's still a lot going against the inclusion of submarines, so let's look at why we might not see them in the game, or at least anytime soon. First, for as many players who want to see them, there are just as many that don't. I went over how they operated historically. It's going to be hard to make their gameplay exciting, keeping within semi-historical constraints. Halloween will be telling. The other obstacle is player feedback. It's possible players are uninterested or don't like the gameplay after the Halloween event. Time will tell on this one, but that, combined with the general public's overall desire to see them in-game, or not, might play heavily into their inclusion. The other big thing is development. It's obvious now that a lot of work has been done secretly regarding submarines. What we don't know is how much more work outside of the Halloween mode has been done. If submarines are to be included, every map will essentially need to be redone, as an underwater version of that map with underwater terrain will need to be created with variances in depth and translucency of water and all that jazz. This is a huge undertaking. Huge! Maybe they've started already. We don't know. This is where speculation comes into play. If they haven't, it's going to take a long time to do this. And let's not forget about countermeasures as well. Will destroyers get depth charges? This affects far more than just submarines. Depth charges are a new weapon which will require more development time as well. Will all ships get ASDIC or sonar? Who knows? Those are some pretty insurmountable hurdles. And that's before you have to remember this. We still don't have the carrier rework. 2017 was supposed to be the year of the carrier, then 2018, and now it's been tabled to 2019. Would they really be working full tilt on submarines simultaneously while working to get carriers done right? Who knows? If they've been thinking about this since day one, they could very well have been working on this the whole time. We just don't know. I don't know. I have no clue. Again, speculation. But in all honesty, there's a lot going against submarines right now. So much so that in my opinion, and again this is merely opinion, it would probably not be until 2020 if we actually saw them in game. If all the stars align, everything falls into place. There's a lot that has to come together for that to work. And of course, I'm just saying this off of what we know historically of wargaming and how long implementation has been for everything else. Of course, again, we don't know how much they've been working on submarines already. Maybe they are closer to completion than we know. As for myself, I'm divided. Knowing how submarines operated historically, I don't see them being implemented in a meaningful or pseudo-realistic way. I am keeping in mind though that this game is more arcade than simulator. Their use in real life, in my opinion, just doesn't translate into something I'm overly excited about seeing in World of Warships. However, the other side of me that grew up playing Silent Hunter, Red Storm Rising on Commodore 64, Seawolf, 688 Attack Sub, and other submarine games is quite excited about this, or at least to try the Halloween mode and see what it's all about. I'm interested on your thoughts. Let's start the feedback right now. Do you want submarines in game? Does this make you salivate? Or are you happy with the 4 classes of ships? Well, 3.5 since we don't have carriers yet. They're still kind of in a limbo state, halfway between being reworked and in their current state, and it's just kind of a mess. But I digress. I want to know what you think and what your suggestions would be on implementing them successfully in-game. Because you got to think about it. There's not just random battles. You've got co-op mode, you've got missions, you've got clan battles. How would submarines be implemented into all of these, and fairly at that? Anyhow, huge news from Wargaming, can't wait for Halloween, can't wait to try submarines out, and you know what? If it goes no further, we got them at least, and that might be enough to placate the people that wanted to see them. And if we do get them in the future, I'll keep an open mind for it. Anyhow, I'll catch you all later. Zoop out.